Hi besties, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be discussing my fall reading plans, my fall TBR. I have decided that I am not going to set a monthly TBR for the rest of the year, truly just because I want to see what it's like. I'm 99% positive that I have set a monthly TBR every single month since I started my YouTube channel. That is a lot of monthly TBRs, and I really enjoy setting TBRs. I enjoy making those videos, but I just wanted to take a break from it and purely mood read over the next few months and just see how I like it. However, we are entering a new season, we are entering autumn, and I do have some books in the back of my mind that I want to pick up, and I wanted to share those with you all and just let you know what books are on my radar and hopefully give you guys some fall book recommendations as well. All of these books are of course fantasy or fantasy romance, and even if they are just like regular fantasy, there is a romance subplot, so I have quite a few books to talk about. Let's get straight into it. These are the books that I want to read this fall. The first book on my fall TBR is Dark Fae by Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti, two authors that you are going to see pop up on my fall TBR quite a bit. I am currently reading Zodiac Academy book 8, and I am back on my Twisted Sisters BS. I want to read their backlist. I really do. So that is why I put Dark Fae right at the top of my fall TBR. This is a reverse harem fantasy romance series that is set before the events of the Zodiac Academy series. And in this book, we are following a vampire. She ends up attending an academy, gets involved in this like murder mystery, and because it's a reverse harem, has multiple love interests. One of them is like a lion shifter, and they're all just these different interesting supernatural creatures. Now, I am notably not a reverse harem girly. However, I wanted to give this series a shot. I'm really enjoying being back in Solaria, which is this author duo's literary world, and I want to give this series a shot because I have heard that it is a very action-packed and fun series. So I'm gonna give it a shot and see what I think. One thing about these authors' books, they are always just very, very fun, and the plot twists are insane. So I'm kind of entering this series with that mindset, and I really hope that I like it. The next book on my fall TBR is called Never Keep, and this is also by Suzanne Valenti and Caroline Peckham. This is their new series. Zodiac Academy is over. They are starting a brand new series, and it is once again set in the same world, Solaria. I don't know too much about this book, but I believe we have multiple female main characters, multiple male main characters, all of the different elements are at war, and we have forbidden romance, and there is of course also some type of academy setting from what I know, so it just sounds right up my alley. Any school setting absolutely gives me fall vibes, so that definitely has me intrigued and why I put it on my fall TBR. The next book on my fall TBR is Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. So this is the second book in the Shepherd King duology, the first book being One Dark Window, which is a book that I read last year and I really enjoyed. This is a really great darker kind of gothic fantasy, and there is a romance subplot in this duology as well. I did actually try to pick this book up earlier this year, I want to say in like January, but I only got like 40 pages in and I just wasn't really in the mood for it, so I put it down and haven't picked it up since. I wasn't actively disliking it, but I think I just wasn't in the mood for it, and I feel like this book is just so perfect for fall. It has those gothic vibes, and the magic system and the setting I think just really is suited to fall. So I'll probably need to reread One Dark Window because it has been quite a while since I've read that, but once I reread that, I do want to read Two Twisted Crowns and finish up this duology. The next book on my fall TBR is Worthy of Fate. So this is a dark fantasy romance. Dark fantasy romance gives me the most autumnal vibes. You're going to see that is quite a trend on my TBR, but this is a book that I have just recently seen popping up a little bit, and it sounds really good. So in this book, our main character has to go through a trial to determine if she is worthy of being gifted great power. If she is deemed not worthy, she could lose her life or worse. Additionally, she also has a fated mate who's trying to find his way to her. So I think this sounds great and sounds like such a good autumnal read. I also know that there's like a very unique magic system and there's spirits, and I just think that this is going to be such a good book to pick up over the next few months. The next book on my fall TBR is not out yet, but it's coming out in November, and I am so excited for it, and that is The Songbird and the Heart of Stone by Carissa Broadbent. We are getting a new Carissa Broadbent book, you guys. Thank goodness. I have missed her writing so much. The Crowns of Nyaxia series is one of my favorite fantasy romances of all time. Araya and Rain are a top tier couple for me, and I'm really excited to continue on with this series. We are going to be following different POVs. I know our female main character is Misha, who is a character that we did meet in the first two books, and then her love interest is a character that I think is like slightly mentioned in The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, but I don't think we've really formally met him as far as I remember. But I'm really looking forward to this. I feel like Carissa Broadbent has a writing style that has some of that like darker grittiness to it. That's definitely the vibe that I got in the first two books of the Crowns of Nyaxia. So once again, an amazing book to read for fall, and I'm really hopeful that this will be a 5-star because Carissa is one of my favorite fantasy romance authors, and I am highly anticipating this book. The next book on my fall TBR is The Wraith King by Juliet Cross. This is another book that is not currently out. It does come out at the end of September, and I'm gonna be honest, I really don't know much about this book. My interest in this book was 100% influenced by the cover. I think it is so gorgeous, and I learned that it is a gothic romantasy. So once again, absolutely perfect for fall. I've also seen a few of my friends get early copies of this book, and they have just given it absolutely glowing reviews. So I'm gonna go in pretty blind, but I'm excited. I've never read anything by Juliet Cross, and that cover just has me so intrigued. So I'm really excited to pick this book up. The next two books on my fall TBR are books 2 and 3 in the This Woven Kingdom series by Tahereh Mafi, These Infinite Threads, and then All This Twisted Glory. I read This Woven Kingdom last month, and I absolutely loved it. I think it is such a solid YA fantasy. It is a Persian fantasy, and it is so beautifully written. The world is so intricate and lush, and the characters are just like to die for. I so fell in love with that first book, and I can't wait to see what happens in books 2 and 3. I believe this is going to be a 5-book series, and these are the only 2 books that are out, but I definitely want to pick these up as soon as possible to stay caught up on the series and find out what our characters are up to. Another book on my fall TBR that is not out yet, but it does come out in November, is The Embrace of Steel and Sorrow by K.L. DeVore. So this book is a prequel to A Touch of Golden Madness, which is a fantasy romance that I read last month. Once again, absolutely loved it. And when you finish A Touch of Golden Madness and you find out that we are getting a prequel to A Touch of Golden Madness, you are going to lose your mind and also be so thankful, because when you finish that book, there are so many reveals that recontextualize the entire story, and that prequel is so needed. So essentially, the purpose that this prequel is going to serve is to give us an idea of how we ended up where we were at the beginning of A Touch of Golden Madness. How did we end up in this post-apocalyptic kind of dystopian world? How did our characters end up in the roles that they are in? And just give us lots of backstory and explanation. And oh my god, if you've read A Touch of Golden Madness, you know how exciting it is that we're gonna get the backstory. We need the lore, we need to know how we got here, and that is exactly what The Embrace of Steel and Sorrow is going to give us, so I can't wait to pick that book up. By the way, if you do want to read The Embrace of Steel and Sorrow, even though it's a prequel, you do need to read A Touch of Gold and Madness first. The author has said that if you read the prequel first, you'll get spoiled for things that happen in A Touch of Gold and Madness. Just trust me, read A Touch of Gold and Madness first, and then go back and read the prequel. You will be so happy that you did. The next 2 books on my fall TBR are City of Gods and Monsters, and then City of Souls and Sinners. So this is an urban fantasy romance series, and the first book will be a reread for me. I did read City of Gods and Monsters over 2 years ago now. Wasn't the biggest fan, particularly of the female main character in this book. However, I have had a few friends continue on with the series, and they said that book 2 is much better, and so is book 3. And the series does become more of a multi-POV fantasy romance, and there's other romances that develop and just so much more that's going on. So I want to give the series another shot. I'm kind of waiting to pick up City of Gods and Monsters until the audiobook comes out. I've seen the author posting about it, and I know it's being worked on, so I'm really hopeful that we will get that before the end of the year. As soon as that is out, I'm gonna pick it up and listen to City of Gods and Monsters, and then I will pick up the sequel, and I really hope that I love it as much as my friends have, and hopefully I can find a new urban fantasy romance series to obsess over. The next book on my fall TBR is Avalon Tower, and this is by C.N. Crawford and Alex Rivers. So this is a fantasy romance, you guessed it, and it follows a character who I believe is human, but then does find out that they have magic powers, and they get embroiled in some type of sticky situation and end up having to join this spy fae academy. And the type of magic that our main character has is vital to defeating an evil fae king. That sounds very fun and very chaotic, and I'm definitely here for it. I don't think I've read any fantasy romances with a true like spy element, so I think that sounds really fun. And once again, academy setting, that always has me really excited, so I hope that I do love this book. The next book on my fall TBR is Bonded by Thorns by Elizabeth Helen. So this is the Fairy Loot edition that I received in my romantasy subscription, and this book is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, which I feel like is such a fall story. I actually just recently rewatched Beauty and the Beast, like the original animated Disney movie, and I hadn't seen it since like 2005 maybe. It had been so long and it was so good. Oh my god, I think Belle is my favorite Disney princess. Belle or Jasmine or Cinderella, one of those three. I can't decide. I love them all for different reasons. But anyway, watching Beauty and the Beast again just got me in the mood for this book. I actually received this a couple weeks before I watched it. It was truly just fate, so I needed to put this book on my TBR. So this book is a reverse harem. Once again, we have multiple love interests. I've heard it's one of those books that is a good time, not a book that is going to change me on a molecular level, but a book that I think that I can just have like a really good time with. And once again, I love the Beauty and the Beast storyline, so I'm excited to try this out. The next book on my TBR is A Feather So Black by Lyra Celine. This book just gives autumn. Like, do I even need to explain why this book is on my fall TBR? This gives me the most like fae, folksy, woodsy vibes, and I've heard really good things about it as well. I know that this book follows our main character who is a changeling, and we have fair folk, which I think are like fae, and there's a bit of a like forbidden romance in this book. So I think that this sounds so good. I can just imagine myself lighting a bunch of candles, putting on a fall ambiance on my TV, and reading this book like on a cozy rainy day. I think that that sounds like the perfect fall day with this book. The next book on my fall TBR is Apples Dipped in Gold by Scarlett St. Clair. This book is also not out yet. It comes out in October, but it is the second book in a fairy tale retelling series. The first book was Mountains Made of Glass, which I read last year and really enjoyed, and this is our next book. So each of the books are going to follow a different like fae wicked prince and their love story. And this series is absolutely just like a spicy fairy tale retelling series. I'm noticing a trend. I think I'm gonna have a very spicy fall because a lot of these books are heavy on the spice, but hopefully will also be fun and have like decent enough plots as well. This book I know is gonna be pretty short. Mountains Made of Glass I think is less than 300 pages, and I assume Apples Dipped in Gold will be as well. But it's just like a really fun time. And what I loved about Mountains Made of Glass is the imagery of this book was absolutely beautiful. The kingdom and castle and forest that was described in Mountains Made of Glass was so beautiful and just like magical and very just like fairy tale-esque, and I really appreciate that Scarlett St. Clair like took the time to put us into that world as this romance unfolded. So I'm really hoping that Apples Dipped in Gold is also going to have that same beautiful imagery. The next book on my fall TBR is Tricky Magic by L.L. Campbell. So this is a witchy paranormal romance. I feel like you have to have a witchy book on your fall TBR. So this is my witchy book. We are following our main character Elia, and Elia ends up having to run away from where she lives and go to a town that always used to be her safe haven. But when she gets there, things are very different and she's not quite sure if the safe haven still exists. And that is partially due to our love interest in this book, who is a hunter. So I know this is enemies to lovers, and we have witches and demons and lots of different paranormal creatures. So I think that this book sounds perfect, particularly for October. All right, and then the final book on my fall TBR is Tempest of Wrath and Vengeance. This is book 3 in the Legacy series, which is a dark fantasy romance series by Melissa K. Rorick. It is my new favorite dark fantasy romance series. It is so good, and this is going to be book 3. And after finishing book 2, I literally cannot wait for Tempest of Wrath and Vengeance. I think about it every day because the ending of book 2 was definitely a shift in the series, and things are going to start going in a very interesting direction, and I cannot wait to see kind of how all of our characters are going to deal with the fallout of the ending of book 2 and where loyalties are going to lie, how relationships are going to go. I just think it's going to be so fun and so entertaining. So that book does come out on Halloween. I'll definitely want to pick it up right away, and I just cannot wait to be back in that world. All right, friends, so that is going to be it for my fall TBR. Let me know what books are on your fall TBR. I want all the like fantasy, dark, romantasy vibes. Definitely let me know what you have your eye on for the next few months. If you made it to this point in the video and you wanted to let me know, go ahead and leave just any fall emoji, a pumpkin, a ghost, leaves, coffee, anything that gives you fall vibes. Please make sure that you're following me on Instagram and Goodreads. They're always linked down below. I really appreciate that you watched this video. I hope that you're having a fantastic day. I love you all so much, and I will catch you guys in the next one.